Okay, I think we'll get started now. I just want to say hello and welcome to California ReLeaf Network Tree Inventory Program Introductory Webinar. We are delighted to see so many individuals representing network member organizations from across the state. Thank you for joining us to learn more about our new program and about this network benefit. My name is Megan Duquette. I'm California ReLeaf's Education and Communications Program Manager, and I'm here today with Alex Bink, who is leading the launch and facilitation of the Network Inventory Program. And he's been working really hard over the past 7 months to get the program ready for all of you today. We're going to talk a little bit about our new membership benefit, which allows our network member organizations to have a free access to a user account in PlanIT TreePlotter inventory software program. So we're delighted that so many of you are interested in joining. So before we jump into today's program, I wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. The first thing I wanted to share with all of you today is that we will be recording this webinar and sharing it on our YouTube channel, as well as our website, Tree Inventory Program page. In addition, I'll be emailing it out to everyone who registered today. So feel free to share this information with colleagues within your organization. And to help facilitate today's webinar, we ask that you please rename yourself. If you haven't already done so, you can do that by hovering over your box with your image or your name. And there's a blue dot that appears with it's a little blue button with 3 dots on it. Click that and choose the Rename Yourself button, and then include your organization that you're with. We'd really appreciate you doing that today. And also to help with facilitating the program, we ask that you keep yourself muted during the presentation as to not distract. And then at the end of today's call, we're going to have a question and answer period. And so you can ask questions verbally, and we'll call on you. You can virtually raise your hand or do so on the screen, and we'll call on you and you can ask your questions. And then with that, if you have a question, you can also use the chat feature as we go along, or you can hold them till the end. So now that we've kind of reviewed our housekeeping items, I wanted to go over our agenda for today. So Alex, would you mind advancing the slide? Thank you. Today, we're going to go over a few items. We're going to talk a little bit about what a tree inventory is and how people use tree inventories. We're going to go over some of the background information about the program. Unfortunately, our executive director, Cindy Blaine, couldn't be here with us today, but she has put together a short video to kind of give you a sense and a background of why California ReLeaf started this program. We're then going to go over a little bit about our program goals, as well as hear from one of our tree inventory program pilot participants, Ken Knight, who's joining us on the call. He's with Your Children's Tree. He's going to talk a little bit about his experience using TreePlotter and our ReLeaf program, helping us get it started. And then we're going to go review eligibility, the application process, and resources that we've put together to help you and your organization be successful in launching this within your organization if you'd like to participate in the program. And then last but not least, we're going to have a question and answer period. So like I mentioned, feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go, or hold them to the end, and then we can call on you verbally or read them via the chat to answer your questions. So with that, I want to turn it over to Alex Bink, who is our California ReLeaf Tree Inventory Tech Support Program Manager, who joined our staff a little over 6 months ago and has been working really hard to get this program up and running for the network. So thank you, Alex, for all your hard work, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Megan. Hi, everyone. Really excited about this program and getting y'all involved in it. So first thing I wanted to talk about to start off is just kind of define what is a tree inventory. I'm sure a lot of you guys might be familiar with this, but I'm guessing for others, it could also be a new concept. So in essence, a tree inventory is just a collection of information or data about a group of trees that you're interested in tracking, especially tracking over time. So there's a lot of different types of inventories. It could be as simple as, just a list of trees and where they are and on paper or in a spreadsheet. And then there's also what are called GIS inventories. And a GIS inventory is basically an inventory that is stored on a map. So that's kind of what you can see here on the screen. This is a screenshot from our inventory, and we use a product called TreePlotter, which was created by PlanIT. And basically what you're looking at here is some information that we've entered about some street trees. You can see the trees on the aerial imagery, and then each tree has a little colored dot on it. And if you were to click on those dots, you can pull up a little pop-up window that has all kinds of information about that tree. Is that tree alive? What species it is? Where's the address? And then if you click on the details button, there's a lot more information that you can delve into as well. So it's really just an easy way of recording and storing whatever information you'd like to track about your trees, and then displaying it in a visual way on a map. That's kind of the idea of what an inventory is. Okay, so with that, like Megan mentioned, Cindy Blaine, who is the executive director of California ReLeaf, has been super involved in coming up with the idea for this program and getting it rolling, finding the funding and all that stuff. So she wanted to explain a little bit about the background, but she wasn't able to be here today. So we have a recording of her with a few words. So I'll go ahead and play that now.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm really bummed not to be with you today when you're having this introductory webinar on PlanIT and our new tree inventory system. This is a topic that California ReLeaf has been, I would say, concerned about working with for several years. Some of you may remember that back in 2019 in LA at the retreat, the ReLeaf retreat there, we had a panel of our network members get up and talk about what system they were using to track their trees. And that was the start of saying, okay, why do we have all these different systems? How do we make sure that the data is kept over time so that we can track the trees, so that we can keep the trees alive? So that was kind of the prequel to conversations that happened last year in Sacramento, where we were talking about providing a tree tracking tool to our network members. And if we provided one, which one would it be? So we did a comprehensive review with a matrix and everything, and decided that PlanIT would be the best because it's virtual, it's a standalone, it's very whizzy bang cool. And that's our route now. So let's talk about why we need this system. First of all, let's ask ourselves, why are we planting trees? We're planting trees because we want greener, cooler neighborhoods. We've been talking about this for almost 10 years. We've gotten funding from the state. We've gotten funding for climate change. How do we make sure that the neighborhoods that don't have trees have more trees, have a lot of trees? When there's heat waves and the electricity goes out, and just when you need to walk down the street. There's all the other human health benefits as well. Excuse me. So the driving force behind this service for our network is to say, we've planted a lot of trees. I know that there is the concern with nonprofits that, well, nobody's paying us to take care of these trees. We're going to have to get creative to figure out how we're going to take care of these trees, because as the nonprofits that brought them to the community, we are also responsible for coming up with solutions and working with other partners, whether it's private, public, or otherwise, or the community. So let's keep in mind that we have to take care of the trees. And one of the big issues is going to be water. So what can we do to be creative about getting water to the trees? These are going to be some of the topics we'll discuss as we move on throughout the year and throughout this program. How do we do that? I'll just say it one more time. Planting trees is pointless if we don't have a plan to protect them and care for them and keep them alive. The only other thing I want to mention about the PlanIT that I think is really cool is that because we'll be tracking this information, we've always partnered a lot with researchers in California. That's how the researchers are the ones who gave us the benefits or gave us the data about the benefits of trees, which allowed us to get cap and trade funding in the first place. So researchers are our friends when we're talking about getting funding for things like maintaining trees. So the good news is that in getting this data, the next generation of volunteers coming along happens to be completely comfortable with mobile technology, and they're environmentally focused, and they're engaged community activists. They want to make a difference. So we have a really good situation in a lot of ways. We have some hurdles, but it's a good situation as far as the people and the tools that we need. So thank you very much for being a part of this urban forest movement with us and for being a ReLeaf Network member. And I look forward to working with you again to grow greener and cooler communities for a long time. Take care. Bye now.
Okay, so with that, we move on to talking, just thanking our program sponsors, because of course, could not have done this program without them. So I'd like to thank the U.S. Forest Service, CAL FIRE, and especially their urban and community forestry program. And we also received funding through Prop 68. So thank you to all those who helped make this possible. And we're really hoping that it's going to be a great project and a great resource for the community here. So, okay, so briefly, I just want to kind of give a quick overview of the program here. Like I mentioned before, we're using a software called TreePlotter, and this is kind of one of the main professional tree inventory software pieces that are used by arborists across the world. PlanIT Geo is a company that's been around for some years now, which is one of the reasons why we decided to go with them, so that we can, make sure that the company behind the product is going to stick around and not disappear next year. We'll be able to maintain that data for the long term. This is, a fairly expensive piece of software, so that's why we're so excited to be able to offer it to you guys. Because it's something that most smaller organizations probably would not be able to afford, and we're going to be able to make it available to anyone who's a network member, which is really exciting. So what you see on the screen here is kind of what you'd see when you visit the inventory. Initially, we have a landing page here that kind of describes the basics of the program, and then you can see these little yellow pins which represent the organizations that are participating. And this is something that the public will be able to access to some extent as well. They won't be able to see every piece of data, but they'll be able to see kind of your organization. There'll be a link to your website, and they'll also be able to see the locations of the trees that you've planted and, kind of maybe what species is there, basic stuff like that. So this will be really exciting, not just for you guys to use, but also for the public to learn about. Okay, so with that, I want to dive into kind of what our explicit goals are with this program. The number one most fundamental thing that we want people to be able to do is we want you guys, the network members, to be able to track data on the trees that you're out there planting. That's kind of the most basic thing and kind of what we focused on in getting everything set up here to make that as easy and as functional as possible. So the idea there is, you guys are already out there planting lots of trees. You probably already have some information on those trees, and you just need a really good place to store and access that information. So that's where the tree inventory and TreePlotter are going to make that process a lot easier. Once you've entered that information into the system, you're going to be able to really easily go back and revisit those trees because you'll be able to see them on the map. You'll be able to filter down to whatever set of trees you want to look at, and then you can go back and check on their health, see if there's any issues that have come up, take measurements, anything you want to do around that, and that will allow us to see which trees are thriving, maybe which are not, what practices are really important for the trees to thrive, and maybe some that don't have as much of an effect as we thought. We also wanted to enable really easy reporting. So once you've tracked all this information about your trees, where they are they in a DAC census tract, or are they growing healthy? What are the numbers? You can export that from TreePlotter, and you can share that information easily with any funder who might be interested in seeing that. And that also will include estimates of some of the tree benefits, so carbon stored in the trees, air pollution, all that kind of stuff that a lot of funders are asking for nowadays. And then finally, you know, like Cindy alluded to, we're hoping that once everybody starts using this program, we get all this data in here, we're going to be able to go back and look at it kind of from higher up and see some patterns of what's going on across the whole state, so that we can tell, you know, oh, well, you know, this particular type of tree that, you know, maybe did well in the past, maybe because of climate change is starting to struggle. That's something we'd like to, you know, share and inform the network about whatever we find from that. Or maybe we find that, you know, this certain type of irrigation strategy is really successful, and the trees that were on that did really well versus, you know, maybe another irrigation strategy didn't do as well. So that's the idea. And one thing I want to emphasize with that is, you know, this is a service for the network members, but it's also going to be used by ReLeaf. It's going to be used by researchers. And so we really want to make sure that we're careful about what information we put into the inventory. So we will have standards, and a lot of training as well in terms of, you know, how to use it correctly, how to make sure that the information you're putting in here is as accurate as it can be. And also that it's, you know, collected in a somewhat systematic way that's sort of the same across multiple different organizations so that it can be easily compared, because that's another factor. Okay, so this is just a short example of kind of what some of the things you can do in TreePlotter. There's a lot of different stuff you can do, so obviously we won't be able to cover it all today. But you know, this is just a screenshot of a planting project by I believe Benicia Tree Foundation. Some locations of where their trees were planted, and then you can I've kind of drawn a box around the trees that I was interested in so that I could look at a table that shows, okay, here's the distribution of different species for this project. So there's really a lot of stuff that you can do with this. You can use it to easily visualize data about the trees that you've planted, or, you know, trees that you haven't planted. If you want to take an inventory of, you know, existing trees in a certain area, or you're interested in heritage oaks or anything like that, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with it. But it's an easy way to look at kind of the whole collection of trees and get a good visualization of it. You can also use it to create a plan of where your trees will be planted, and then, you know, create a nice map and visualization of that you can share with your planting partners for their approval. So if you're planting at a school or something, you can make a nice map to share with them and say, here's what we're going to do and where each tree is going to go. You can filter down, you know, not just based on geography like I've done here, but also based on any piece of information that's attached to the tree. So if you wanted to look at all of the coast live oaks that you've planted, you could filter to only show those. You could filter to see trees that were planted during a certain period or that were associated with a specific project, or that have grown to a certain size if you've recorded that. So that's another great feature. And then you'll also be able to embed this map on your website and kind of create some views that the public will be able to see if you want to share your work with people who are interested in it. So they'll be able to see, you know, where your trees are and you know, what species and all that kind of thing. And then finally, as I mentioned before, you'll be able to export, you know, whatever data you want to out of here and share that with funders. And that's a really essential part as well. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Ken Knight with Your Children's Trees, which is a tree planting organization and network member in Goleta. And Ken is a board certified master arborist, and he's going to share a little bit of his experience using TreePlotter during the pilot program. So yeah, Ken, take it away.
Thanks, Alex. I've appreciated the fact that the California ReLeaf has made this opportunity available to all of us here. We're a small organization at Your Children's Trees. We're located in central Southern California in the Santa Barbara County, Goleta area. We're a small organization, but we're very active weekly. We have an affiliated group with your University of California, Santa Barbara. We have a lot of students that we work with, and they come through, and so we have a lot of turnover. So we're interested in having a system that's going to be very flexible and easy to learn. We're involved in a lot of restoration and park plantings and school plantings. So we're not as linear as some people who are just planting street trees. So it's very helpful to have a system that is able to use maps to zero in on exactly where we have the tree planted. Sometimes when you get out in the field, it's real difficult to figure out where you are. And having these maps available that are tied to a visual location is extremely helpful. So we're using this, well, we were going to go buy TreePlotter, and it's a little pricey, but the fact that we were able to get it through California ReLeaf has just been a tremendous boon to us. The inventory is just the tip of the iceberg to us, because this is, we were going to use this program for, we got a green schoolyard grant, and that's for the cool schools where you're going to plant a lot of trees to reduce the heat islands on campuses and bring more kids outside. And so we're using this tool as a means of identifying not only where there is potential trees to plant, but also what's out there right now. Because part of our mission is we want to have trees for the future, but we also want, and we're going to plant trees and care trees for the future, but we also want to make sure that the existing trees are also taken care of as well. So we're using this for inventory. We're using it for, you know, before we were using aerial photographs and Excel spreadsheets to keep track of what we had. And this systematic way of keeping track of everything is a real key in our ability to do long-term care of the trees. We have a backlog of Excel spreadsheets and maps that show we've been planting trees for some 25 years. And so we're going to be able to bring this information into our system and use this as a way of providing additional data on what works, what species works, what and how we can move forward in the face of climate change to keep planting trees that are the right types. But we also found that there's unexpected benefits to things like this. We have, when we get this information, we will get this information on our website. We're anticipating we're going to be able to attract more donors. People know what we're doing. And also we hope to attract more volunteers, because if not only if they know what we're doing, but where we're doing it, we can supply maps to them to show them where the locations are, where we're going to be meeting, as we meet all over the place. And so this is a handy tool for communicating with our clients, with our people that are supporting to us. We're also going to use it for other aspects of related inventories. We have a lot of champion trees. We're going to use this for a champion tree tour. We have a program of tree walks at our at schools, where we emphasize the diversity of trees on the campus. A lot of the trees that we planted. So we have those available, and we're going to provide those on maps. Again, also to use this on our website. So we have, I think it's not something that's difficult to use. I mean, if you have a phone, everybody's got a phone. And this is, well, it's similar to when I was a kid and I used Legos. You know, I started out with Duplos, you know, the big blocks, and eventually graduated to regular Lego kits and got more complicated as time went on. Well, that's kind of like what TreePlotter is. You can start simple. You can start with an inventory system. You can start with tracking your trees and taking care of your trees, and you can build on this and get more complex. This system can grow with you. You can get as complicated as you want. And we have a lot, again, we have a lot of students who use this. Again, they can pick it up and learn how to use it. But even for old people like me, it's relatively easy to use. Although I've found, even though that the students are really good at using this on their phone, I use it on an iPad, which gives me a little bit more room to work with because I got big, clumsy fingers, and it works fine. And you don't have to be an arborist. I'm an arborist, but there's a lot of supplemental tools that you can use with this. And that's, again, another big benefit of this is that there's a lot of support on this system. Alex has spent a lot of time analyzing what his ReLeaf members need, and has been really good at getting feedback on this and translating that feedback into giving better explanations. TreePlotter itself is part of PlanIT Geo, and they have a very robust video program where you can get support information about how to do things. And like any program you have, it's a skill. It's a skill that you can pick up easily and you can get better at easily the more you do it. So I think that this has been a really positive experience for me, and I can turn it back over to you, Alex, and we can get some more questions and information about this.
All right, thanks for sharing your experience, Ken, and thanks for helping us test it out during the pilot as well. I really appreciate that. So, okay, so let's move on to the program eligibility. So this is something I think most people here are familiar with, the ReLeaf network of nonprofits, and I think most of you guys are already members, but just in case, I want to make it clear that this is a benefit that is available only to network members. Now, any tree planting or tree-based nonprofit or community-based organization is eligible to become a member. So if you're not a member now, don't worry. We can get you set up there. And if you're not sure that you're a member, or if you just want to learn more about the network, you can visit our website, californiareleaf.org/network, for information there, or you can contact Megan, who is kind of our network guru, so to speak. Just want to mention that being an active member means that you are renewing annually as well. So that does mean that when we send out our annual survey, you need to complete that to maintain your membership and maintain access to the program. So just make sure to stay on top of that. But of course, we'll definitely give you some reminders if you miss it. So. All right, so if you're interested in participating, and I hope you are, these are going to be your basic steps. So the first step is to apply for an account in TreePlotter. If you go to the URL there on screen, and Megan can put that in the chat as well, there is a form for you to fill out, which just has some basic questions to help us get you set up there, see what kind of support you might need. And then once you fill that out, we'll go ahead and create your account or accounts. And then we'll reach out to you to get you set up with those accounts. And then before you start fully using the service and entering all your data in there, we do ask that you review our training materials. Primarily, that is going to take the form of, we're going to have a few sandbox tutorials. Those are optional, but I think they are really helpful for people who want more of like a small hands-on experience. And we'll kind of be doing those on a rolling basis. But the big one that's coming up is we're going to have a basic virtual training on March 19th. I would recommend anyone who's available to attend that. I think that'll be really helpful for learning the basics. And then we are also going to do some in-person trainings as well. You could attend only one of those. You could attend multiple of them. They will have a lot of overlap in terms of what we cover, but repetition always helps. And I'm sure with questions and things, there'll be some slightly new stuff in each one as well. So the in-person trainings are going to be April 11th in Sacramento and May 9th in LA, which is the day before our network retreat as well. So if you're already planning to come to that, or even if you're not, that might be a nice one to attend to if you're in the LA area. Once you've attended the trainings, we'll kind of set you free to use the service as you wish to, and you'll be able to actively start putting your trees in there. My recommendation to get started is just kind of start entering the trees as you go. Whenever you plant a tree or do a planting, day event or something like that, at the end of the day, you just take a little time to enter the information on those trees as you go. And that way you can start to get familiar with the system, kind of taking it day by day instead of trying to, if you have a lot of data from the past of tree planting, we will allow you to import that. But it's good to just get familiar with it first before doing that. And the import process can be a little complicated, so you might want to meet with me and I can help facilitate that. And then lastly, I just want to mention that, while you're using the inventory, we want to maintain a good two-way communications with you. So that means for each organization, we are going to ask that they choose somebody who's kind of the manager or the technical lead for their organization for the inventory. So you can decide who that's going to be before you sign up. And then if I have questions about anything, I'll be kind of reviewing the data as it comes in. If I see anything that looks off, I might reach out to you. And then on the flip side as well, please do not hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions, because there's a lot, like Ken said, there's a lot of stuff you can do in TreePlotter. Generally you're going to start with the basics, but there's going to be stuff that's unfamiliar to you. And so, definitely want you to reach out and ask questions if there's anything that's not clear. So don't be afraid to do that. Okay, and then I also wanted to make you guys aware of some online resources that are available to you if you want to get started on becoming a little more familiar with the program. Our website, californiarelief.org/network tree inventory program. Megan will put that link in the chat as well, has a resource library, which is somewhat still under construction, but we're going to be adding to it continually as the program unfolds. And then it also has those training dates that I just mentioned and their registration links if you want to sign up. And it also has that same program eligibility and application information that I just went over in case you need to look at it again. So definitely I would recommend taking a minute to check that out. And then it will also have future training dates as those are established, because those trainings I mentioned, that's just the beginning. We're going to have a lot more trainings down the road on new and different topics. So definitely stay posted on that if you want to learn some of the more advanced features as well. Also wanted to make everyone aware of PlanIT Geo. Again, that's the company that makes TreePlotter. They have a really great support website, support.treeplotter.com. We'll also put that in the chat. And they have some short tutorial videos, FAQs, a getting started page if you just want to look at the basics. And then there's also a search function where you can search and learn about any particular feature that you might be curious about, because there's so much that you can do with TreePlotter, honestly. For most people, they probably won't ever look at a lot of the features because they just don't need to. But if you have a particular project and you're saying, hey, I heard about this feature, I really want to learn more about it, you can search it up there. Or of course, you can always ask me questions as well. So just to review the next steps here, if you're interested, make sure to fill out that application so we can get you started on creating the accounts and all that. And also definitely, if you're interested in those sandbox tutorials, you can put that on the application. We'll get you scheduled with that. And then highly encourage everyone to attend the virtual introductory training on March 19th. And that'll basically go over, like I said, how to use the basic features that pretty much everybody's going to be using so that you can get started. And then if you are nearby or can travel to those in-person trainings, I think those will be really helpful as well, because we'll actually get the chance to, step away from the computer, go outside, practice recording some data. So that'll be really useful as well. So with that, we can get to some questions, but I did want to share my contact information here. So if you have any questions after today about the program, you can always reach out to me. There's my phone number and my email. If you're at all interested in this program, I highly recommend adding my email address to your safe sender list. We've been having a lot of our emails getting caught in spam filters recently. So if you apply for the program, I'm going to send you an email kind of with the next steps and your account information. So if you don't see that, you might want to check in your spam folder, or like I said, proactively go ahead and add me to the safe sender list to avoid that. And then of course, if you have any trouble getting in touch with us by email, you can always give me a call as well, because that's usually pretty foolproof. And then again, that webpage, californiarelief.org/network tree inventory program, has a lot of the same information that we just went over if you want to look at it. So yeah, that's about it. So we'll be staying here for the next little while, answering as many questions as people have. So don't be shy, and let's jump into those.
Okay, so if you have a question, you can either put it in the chat now, or if you'd rather, you can raise your hand virtually or via video, and we will do our best in calling on you, and you can unmute yourself. So let's see here. Does anybody have any questions?
This is David Allen from Roseville Urban Forest Foundation. I posted one in the chat just to get a rough idea. How long does it take to enter a tree, the TreePlotter?
So that's a good question. It really depends on what information you're putting on there, because what we want to enable is that there's kind of a space to put whatever information you want to put in there. You don't have to fill everything out. That's not required. There are a few fields that are required just to get the basic information, like what species is it? Did you plant it, or is it just a tree that you found somewhere in the environment? Stuff like that will have you always enter. But there's also places to put, like, how tall is the tree? How big, what's the diameter of the tree? How wide is it? That kind of stuff is only really there if you feel that it would be useful for you. I mean, obviously we encourage you to collect data as long as it's, again, in accordance with our standards. But if you're just doing a basic tree entry with the minimum information, it should take less than a minute. I mean, it's really only a few seconds if you just kind of click a few buttons, and that's it. And then of course, if you're adding a lot of information, it could take a little longer than that, especially if you have to measure the tree or actually collect the information. So yeah, hope that helps.
Very much so. Thank you, Alex.
We have a question from Kathy Capone. Do you want to ask your question?
Hi, thank you for doing this meeting. I was called away for a volunteer who came over and wanted a tree to go plant. So I'm sorry I missed the first part of the meeting. I am interested in looking at your recorded meeting. So when are you going to be posting it to the California ReLeaf website, or are you going to be sending it to participants?
I can help answer that question. We are recording it. We will be posting it on our tree inventory page, our YouTube channel, and we'll be sending out the email to everyone who registered today.
Thank you very much.
Alex, we have a couple of questions in the chat. We have one that says, do you know of any orgs using their maps embedded on their website? That's our first question.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's not something that, because we've only had a few organizations participating in the pilot so far, there's no one who's using our version of TreePlotter yet, but there are other organizations that use TreePlotter already before this program launched. And I definitely know a few of them that are using that. I believe Canopy and Tree San Diego, I know for a fact, have it embedded on their website. So if you go to their websites, you might be able to look around there if you want to see what that looks like. And there probably are others as well. But yeah, those are the two that I can think of right now.
Okay, we have another question in the chat. It says, we have over 1,200 trees already in the ground. We track them using Google spreadsheets. Some of the data have GPS coordinates, others do not, depending on our funding source. And it says, I'm concerned about how much time it's going to take for us to enter all of our previously planted trees and what kind of time and whether it might be worth our time. So do you have any comments or thoughts about that, Alex?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this person was imagining entering all those trees by hand. Obviously, you could do that, but it's probably not an efficient way to do it. There is a tool to mass import like a bunch of trees all at once. There is, and I kind of alluded to that earlier. So that's probably if you have a need to do that, that's how you would go about it. There is some prep work that needs to be done to make sure that that process goes smoothly, because basically you need to make sure that the columns in your spreadsheet have a place to go in TreePlotter so that that information is recorded correctly. So you have to make sure that those line up properly, as well as if you don't have the location of the tree in some form, you will need either GPS coordinates or an address. Otherwise, you won't be able to put the tree on the map anywhere, right? So you will have to have at least some kind of location information. So you could just import the ones where you have that, or if you wanted to go back and, you know, if you have some way to find them, you could record GPS coordinates, something like that. So there's a lot of ways that that can happen. It shouldn't take a tremendous amount of time, but basically, you know, you'd want to set up a meeting with me to talk about what exactly you want to do, and I can help you facilitate that and get it done so you don't have to enter it all manually, because that would be an overwhelming task.
Thank you, Alex. And a follow-up question to that one is, how does this program track the health of a tree? Is there space there, or you know, for volunteers or people that they work with to track that information?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is a big and complicated question. So not necessarily going to delve into all of that stuff right away, because we want to make sure everybody gets familiar with the basic features first. But in essence, there is a tree monitoring methodology that was developed by the U.S. Forest Service, some researchers there. And we're going to try to follow that, because that's kind of the gold standard in terms of how to collect that information and how to record it. And so there will be a future training on how to do that, so that we can get everybody to understand the best methods. But yeah, there are places to record that information, things like, you know, just how healthy is the tree overall. You can also record things like, oh, it has a broken stem, or you know, it looks like it's not getting enough water. There'll be all kinds of ways to record information about, you know, the tree's environment and how it's doing. So definitely. But like I said, that we do want to make sure that that is done in sort of a systematic way, so that, you know, if you're recording that the tree is healthy or sick or whatever, and somebody else across the state is also recording that means kind of the same thing, no matter who's putting it in there. So like I said, we're going to make a lot of training materials available on that, so we can get everybody to have the knowledge that they need to do that correctly.
Thank you, Alex. Got another question in the chat, and it says, will the data be shared if our membership lapses or we opt out? They don't think that will happen, but they have a board member asking. So what happens if you decide not to move forward with membership anymore? What happens at that point?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. I'm not sure if we've really discussed that per se. So, you know, in terms of access to TreePlotter, if your membership lapses, you would still have access to your data. You just won't be able to add more at that point until you renew your membership. So it would still be there. Now, if you explicitly decided that you wanted to take your data out of there and didn't want us to share it, I mean, I think we'd be open to that conversation, is my sense. I mean, part of the whole idea is that we want to share it with researchers and things like that, because that data is really valuable to the whole community. But, you know, if you have a good reason why you don't want to do that, I guess we could talk about it. So yeah, I think it's possible that we could do something like that. But, you know, we're not going to like sell it to Google or anything. It's for the urban forestry nonprofit community. So hopefully most people will see the benefit in that and be interested in sharing that.
Okay, great. We have another question in the chat. How much custom information can we track for each tree, if any? For example, who has watering responsibility, as an example?
Yeah, that is a great question. So that's one of the things I've been working on over the past few months, is trying to customize this so that basically the way it works is that every organization is going to see the same different options for what information they can put in there. So I've been trying to design those options so that things that most organizations might want to track are available in there. So, you know, who is responsible for caring for the tree? That's definitely something that I'm going to make, you know, groups will be able to put that information in there. That'll be an option available. If you have something that is really particular to your organization that no one else is going to use, we probably won't be able to create a field just for you, just because if we did that for everybody, then the form is going to be miles long and it's going to make it really cumbersome to use. However, there are things like a notes field or a few other fields that can be a little bit more generic. So if there is something particular that you want to track, you can potentially have a place to put it, even though there might not be a specific box that's designed, you know, for that piece of information. But in general, anything that's like, you know, relevant to tree planting or care that a lot of people are going to use, you know, that's definitely something that we want to give you a space for. And if you have any ideas and you say, hey, you know, this is something that I think a lot of people are going to use, I don't see it on here. The system is somewhat customizable, so we could talk about that. But again, I can't necessarily guarantee that we'll add any, you know, specific field that you might be interested in. If it's too specific, we do need to be aware of how long and complicated that gets. So
Thanks, Alex. One of the questions, and I can help answer this one, is can you provide the reference for the tree health methods paper you mentioned? And if you go on our tree inventory information page at the very bottom, there's a resource library, and it's the U.S. Forest Service guide that Alex is mentioning. And if you'd like, I can provide you the direct link in the chat right now for that question. And then does anybody else have any questions? Again, you can say them verbally and not just to us, but if you had a specific question, even for Ken about his experience, please feel free to ask either in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask your question that way.
I think I'll just ask my question this way, if that's all right. You just said it was. We had a tree plotter inventory training for the city of Fremont, and nothing ever came of it. So you mentioned, I mean, we have good records in Fremont Urban Forest Friends, which is really Tri-City, Fremont, Newark, and Union City, about all the trees that we planted going back 5-6 years ago. But one of the things you briefly mentioned was just trees in our neighborhood. You said something about trees that are already there. So I don't know, is ReLeaf interested in neighbors measuring and entering the trees that are already right here in front of my house?
Great question. And yeah, so I think that's kind of, I want to say that that's kind of similar to the program that Ken and Your Children's Trees are doing. So yes, we are interested in that with an asterisk, which again is that you know, we're trying to make sure that as much as possible, the data that's put into the system is accurate. And what that means is that if you are having people collect data on, you know, trees that you didn't plant, so you don't necessarily have as firm of information on it, right? Like you might not be sure what species it is, or you might not know when it was planted. Just making sure that everybody that's entering data on those trees is, you know, is trained, has the knowledge that they need to do that accurately, and is kind of only putting in the data that they feel confident is true. So, you know, there's an option that you can put if you're like, hey, there's a tree here, but I don't know what type it is. That's perfectly fine. You can still put it into the system and just say, you know, well, I'm not sure. And you can even flag it for help if you need help identifying it. So yes, we are interested in that type of program. There's so much stuff that you can do with TreePlotter that, you know, it's not possible for us to train everyone all at once on everything. So we are mainly focusing the training materials initially on, you know, how to track your newly planted trees, you know, at your events or whatever. But there will definitely be a future training on that specific topic. And if it's something that you really want to get started with right away, we could set up a meeting to kind of go over how that might take place as well. And it also kind of depends on your level of expertise too, right? If you have run, you know, a citizen science project before and you know how to train everybody and you know how to collect all the data on your own already, then that's going to be a little easier. If you're just getting started and you think it's a neat idea, you know, we'll train you on that, but it might take a little more time to set up. So just keep that in mind as well.
Alex, if I could add in, one of the nice things about TreePlotter is that you can track who is entering the information. And that's really good for the person that you designated for your organization as the person who's doing quality control. So it's it's a good, if you have someone that is knowledgeable, that can review the data that other people are doing, it will help guide them in a good direction. But the nice thing is that you have, if everybody has access to this, you get a lot more data input, but you also need that quality control aspect of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks, Ken. And that's really important that if you are, overseeing a larger number of people that are using TreePlotter, I think that might be another future training of like how to manage that, how to use the tools and interface in there to kind of clue in on, some things that might look iffy or that people have flagged that they need assistance with, things like that. Because, at a certain point that we've been sort of dancing around this idea of data quality, if the data quality is not accurate enough, if you start having people putting in there who don't really know what they're doing, it kind of pollutes the whole ecosystem so that, even the good data that you do have is no longer useful because you can't tell necessarily, was this collected properly if, somebody else was out there, collecting it improperly. So that's why we're really trying to emphasize that and make sure that everybody gets access to the training and information that they need to do it correctly.
Okay, thank you so much. And B, did you have any other follow-up questions, or did we answer it?
Pretty much answered. I imagine that just in my neighborhood, I'll be the ones collecting all the data. Just genus and species, or do you want subspecies also if I can figure it out?
Yeah, if you're able, again, whatever you can accurately assess. If you know the subspecies, there is a way to record that as well in most cases.
I can probably figure this out.
I imagine a lot of people are just going to do genus and species, and that's totally fine. So.
And there's just one more quick thing. What about fruit trees? In my neighborhood, a lot of people planted fruit trees in their front yards, actually. What about you? Are you interested in fruit trees being plotted or not?
Sure. Yeah, they're trees. We're interested in them.
Trees. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have to ask.
Okay, thanks, B. We've got a couple of questions in the chat for you, Alex. One is related to, is this program at all connected to CalFlora? And then in the second part of the question is there a limit on how large a tree needs to be for our TreePlotter system?
Good question. So yeah, let's start with connection to CalFlora. Not currently. I love CalFlora, great website, by the way. My understanding is that their focus is on wild plants, just what's growing in nature without human intervention. So I'm not sure that there would be much overlap in terms of what we're doing. Potentially, I mean, we are interested in, again, in kind of sharing data and collaborating. So, if something came up that they were interested in, we'd be open to it. But I think the vast majority of trees that we're going to be collecting information on are the ones that humans have planted. And that's not covered by CalFlora typically, is my understanding. So I'm not sure there would be a lot of shared data there. And I'm sorry, could you repeat the second question?
Sure. Is there a limit on how large a tree needs to be for the system? So I think it's saying, I think it's like referencing seedlings and things, but I could be wrong. That's my guess.
Yeah, no size limit. So you can put in, if you want to, you can put in your 500-year-old heritage oak or, ancient old growth redwood, or you can put in a tree that hasn't even been planted yet. Like I mentioned, one of the things you can do is add trees into the system, and you can mark it as, this is a proposed tree, meaning it hasn't been planted yet. And then you can kind of put those on a map and share that with whoever you'd like to. And then once you plant them, no matter what size they are, you upgrade them to, okay, now this tree has been planted, and you can put in there how big the tree is if that's something that you're interested in, so that we can say, hey, this is a seedling, this is a 5-gallon tree, this is a 15-gallon tree, those kind of things.
Okay, great. And I've got another question in the chat. In TreePlotter, are there different interfaces for when volunteers are planting new trees versus making a visit to those planted trees in the future?
Short answer, yes. So we'll kind of delve more deeply into this in some of the trainings, but yeah, there's when you first add a tree, there's a certain menu that comes up, and then if you go back to check on the tree later, you can do what's called an inspection, and that generally is a little bit more simplified compared to adding a new tree. Which can allow you hopefully to make it a little easier on training the volunteers who are maybe new to that process. So yeah, and then also we will have different each user account that we create can have a different kind of ranking, so to speak. So you can have your volunteers that don't have much, hopefully have some good training, but they're not experts, right? They will have more limited privileges in terms of what they can do. And then you have your kind of standard users that can do most things. And then you might have somebody at the top, like I said, that's kind of the technical lead, and they'll be able to do a few things that the other users cannot do, like, potentially creating accounts or editing different things. So, yeah.
Okay, we've got about a few more minutes left of our hour together, but I do have another question in the chat I think we'll be able to answer. And if anybody else has any other last minute questions, please put it in the chat. And if we aren't able to get to them, either myself or Alex will get back to you and answer your question. So the question in the chat is, our city has finished a tree survey for all the existing trees. Would it be wise for us to merge our data with the city system so everything in the city isn't on the same site? Or is it wise for us to maintain an independent system of our planted trees through this program and through the network?
So that is a really good question. And I think it kind of depends on, it might depend on a case by case basis in terms of what you need to do. And also, how easy it is to sync those up. Like how did they, does their inventory collected kind of in a similar way to ours where it's comparable, or is it different? Do they have the attributes that we need to put in here? Or, do they have a lot of stuff in their inventory that doesn't fit into ours? I think in most cases, you should be able to do that if that's something you're interested in, and is kind of syncing those up and adding. Basically, what you do is you can do it either way, right? You could add their data to TreePlotter, or you could take the data out of TreePlotter and put it into their system. So it kind of depends on your preference there. But yeah, I think that's something you can do if you have a desire to look at them all together, right? So you don't need to, but it's not a bad idea as long as that data is accurate and it fits into our system.
Alex, if I could add something there. We collect data because we use it to manage our trees. So if you have data in there that you're not managing, somebody else is managing, it would not necessarily be to your benefit. You have to keep track of data. And it's important that if you choose wisely, make sure that you're going to be following that data, that you're going to be using that data. So I err on the side of being conservative and saying, I'm just going to use this, the data that I use and the data that I'm using to manage the trees that I'm responsible for.
I think that's a really good point.
I think that's kind of what I was getting at in terms of like, you would probably want to have a purpose in mind for doing that. If you have a program where you have volunteers out checking on trees across the city, that would be one example. Or if you're creating some kind of educational program. So I think it's doable, but yeah, I think I largely agree with what Ken said, that if, it might not be worth your time just to do it, because, you feel like it. It's not, I would want to have a specific use in mind in order to spend the time on that.
And I think I would add that so some tree projects you may be planting on public municipality sites, like let's say a park, and you're responsible for watering and caring for that tree to maturity. But at a certain point, the management of that tree is going to be the responsibility of the city or the owner of the property. And so being able to transfer that information to them would be really important. So we're at 11 o'clock, and I want to respect everyone's time. So I know that we had one more question in the chat. from someone from Roseville Urban Forest Foundation, but we'll get back to you via email, or you can chat with Alex line about that question. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who came today to today's webinar to learn more about our network tree inventory program. We hope that it was informative and that you've got the resources that you need to participate in the program. And at any time that you have a question, please feel free to reach out to myself or to Alex, and we will help connect you with the resources that you need. So without further ado, thank you. And Alex and Ken, thank you too for your time. So Alex, you have any final words?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I don't mind staying on and answering further questions. I do want to let people who might need to go take off, but if people have a question, I can stay here and keep chatting. So
I can stay on for a moment, Alex. I was asking that outstanding question. I don't mind staying on a moment or two longer.
sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you say that again?
I could stay on the line a little bit longer. This is what the one was asking the last question about the data entry.
Okay, so we'll say goodbye to those that have to leave, and then those that can stay, I'll pose the question from earlier on the chat for you, Alex, and then you can go ahead and answer that. So the question is, can you explain how existing trees that have been planted in the past without manually entering each of them? You know, they have thousands of trees that they planted since 2016, and it looks like he has a link in the chat of where they're planted, I believe.
No, that was a separate question that I screwed up.
Okay, okay. You can clarify then.
Sorry, because I was coming to the end. Anyway, long story short. So yeah, I was just very curious. We've been planting since 2016, and I've heard up to 20,000 trees. And so I got very excited when you said we don't actually have to manually enter them. So is it satellite data kind of points that get picked up? How is that done? Is what I was curious about.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, you'll need to have information on where the trees are in some form. So you need to have either GPS coordinates ideally, or if you only have address, we can also potentially make that work too. But yeah, you'll need to have the basic information in basically an Excel spreadsheet.
Gotcha. So
what we need to do from
I don't think we have that. My counterpart David Allen is online. I think we only have general locations of where we had plantings, but I don't think we have X or Y data to import. So no, that's why I was very curious about that.
A word of warning, I've done this, tried to download information into TreePlotter, and you have to have the same screens that are in TreePlotter. You have to have that information organized in the same fashion. I'm a professional arborist as well as being a volunteer, and I dealt with a situation where we had one of my clients wanted to move from a different software system into TreePlotter, and they're able to download some basic information such as species, potential location, but a lot of the data got lost in transit because of formatting issues.
Gotcha.
And also, when you're dealing with GPS, a lot of GPS people use GPS maybe on their phones or something that might work on a street tree, but when you get into a park or a restoration area, it's generally not very accurate. And that's the beauty of TreePlotter, is that you can take a tree that's downloaded, move that tree. Oh, I see on the map, that's where the tree is, and you can see it on the aerial. So it takes some moving around and some data manipulation, but just to think that you're going to press a button and put everything in there.
No, I wasn't that Pollyannic. No, but when you're hearing tens of thousands since 2016, and we're standing up finally trying to get GIS up and running, it was just daunting to think about, because I've heard up to 25,000 trees, because they've been doing it since 2016, and I've been on the board less than a year, and I raised my hand on the GIS side. So anyway, I appreciate it. We'll reach out, Alex, as we get closer and closer. And then real quickly, the last item was for you at the last ReLeaf retreat. Cal Poly came to speak to us. And I was just curious if you're going to share your data or our data with them, because they're hyper excited about getting any data on any trees. And so it was just a curiosity question.
Yeah, that's definitely something that is on the agenda potentially.
Great.
There's a few different groups that we've worked with in the past, and their lab is definitely one of them.
Good.
So yeah, if they're
That's good to hear.
interested in it, or really, I think, you know, any researcher that wants to do research that's going to be helpful to the network, we would be open to sharing the data and working with them. So yeah.
Good. That's exciting. I appreciate it. Thanks for the presentation.
Yeah, no problem. And I just wanted to jump back briefly to the import process. Basically, what Ken was saying is that you know, you need the data in a spreadsheet form in some way, and then you would need to make sure that each of your columns that you want to import lines up perfectly with the columns basically that exist in TreePlotter. So it does take some data management stuff beforehand, and that's why I say, if this is something you're interested in doing, let's set up a meeting so that I can kind of explain the process in more detail and help you do that.
I think we're going to need that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of depends also on what format you have it in. Like, I know that you guys kind of were influenced a little bit by Sacramento Tree Foundation.
Correct.
And I know for them, they have like cabinets and cabinets full of like paper records that are, and you know, there is a way to import that, but you know, it's not easy. You have to get it first into that spreadsheet format with that basic information that you want to move in. So if you have that, it's not too difficult. If it's some kind of more archaic system, then it might be a lot of work.
But it's a little bit better in some respects than trudging out into the field. So if you could share that spreadsheet, that would be great. I'll put my email address into it, or I'll email you, and then we'll say if we could get the spreadsheet so we can at least see if we can organize ourselves in that manner or not, and then we'll set a meeting up with you.
Yeah, so if you, yes, send me an email, and if you can share kind of some sample data with me, then I can have a better idea of what the easiest way to get it in there will be. But in general, my recommendation would be to start using the system with your new trees first, so you can get familiar with it. That's what's on our
master list. Is our next planning is March 9th, and that's our intent, is to start doing some entry, but we got to get registered and open up the tool, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and then I think once you're kind of more familiar, it'll make a lot more sense, I think, kind of what I'm talking about too. Because once right now you're kind of imagining some mystery version of TreePlotter.
Yeah, we've done some GIS entry on another tool, and then we are tiptoeing around a third tool. But anyway, we don't have to belabor everybody else that's still online. We'll coordinate with you, Alex.
Okay, sounds good.
Appreciate it. Thanks to everybody for this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for your good questions. Any other questions that people have before we log off here?
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions.
Nobody's asked about what do you do if you don't have any self-service yet?
There is a way.
Yeah, there is an offline mode. It's a little tricky to use, so that we'll try to cover that as a part of a training at some point. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm hearing no other questions. Seeing no hands raised. So thanks again for everyone who could participate today. And you should have our contact information, and I'll be emailing you in the next couple of business days too. So you'll have a direct link to our emails and the resources we shared today. Thanks again, Ken, for all your help.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Megan. And thanks everybody for attending. We'll see you guys later.